Hey everyone, how's it going? I'm Rachel and this is Spiritual Crypto. I realized I should start saying at the beginning and end of episodes to remind or introduce people who've never heard of seeds before that seeds are a cryptocurrency for social good. It's basically like crypto mutual aid, and anyone can redeem a single seed to ask for monetary help and receive that as a gift from our community. So for example, you could redeem a single seed to ask for $1,000 for rent, which is pretty close to what somebody who recently received a gift had done. And we'll share that with our community, and when and if the $1,000 is raised, we'll send you those funds in cryptocurrency with no strings attached. So if you're ever in need of monetary help, Seeds is there to try and to help you with that. So outside of that, today I thought I'd try to talk more about specific cryptocurrency trades that I've made to kind of bring in, I don't want to use the word practical exactly, because there's a practicality to the more esoteric stuff I've been talking about in other sessions, but I thought I'd also ground it more, I guess. So for anybody who's interested, I was going to talk about the initial crypto trades I made when I started buying Bitcoin in 2013, and kind of some of the lessons that I learned with those cryptocurrency trades heading into the trading philosophy that I'm kind of operating under today. So as mentioned, I first started buying Bitcoin in 2013, and I came upon it. It was interesting to me anyway. It was like one of those things that I'm sure, many people can relate to this experience, where it was early-ish 2013. Bitcoin had hit all-time highs in April of 2013. It got up to like $263, as I recall. And it was like I was hearing the word Bitcoin from very different people in my life, very different sources in my life. And so I remember consciously recognizing that it was like the universe or whatever was trying to get me to pay attention to it. Like I remember recognizing that and making note of it in my head, making mental note. And then come September-ish, latest September, I heard in the news that the U.S. government had shut down this site called Silk Road, which I think I've mentioned before. For anyone unfamiliar, Silk Road was kind of like the eBay for like every illicit activity you can imagine. Like people were buying drugs, and like the guy that, I don't know that prostitution and stuff actually was happening on the platform for what it's worth, but the guy that was behind the platform is now in jail for, I think the primary charge had to do with like trying to hire a hitman through Silk Road. And I knew a guy, as an aside, through Techstars, which was the startup accelerator that Seeds went through in 2015. There was this guy that I liked who was associated with the program, and his son had been roommates with Ross Ulbricht. That was the name of the Silk Road founder. I don't know that they were roommates when Ross got arrested, but I don't know. I mean, it just seemed like it was a situation where it was this like white kid who started making a ton of money because people paid him. The important thing to note is that people paid in Bitcoin on this platform, and Bitcoin was really all that was around. Litecoin was as well, but I don't think they were accepting Litecoin at that time. And he was like my age, I think. So like, how old was I then? Late 20s. I was 29 in 2013. So that guy's in jail, and he's still in jail. But anyway, when the government shut it down, I read about it in the news, and I checked the Bitcoin price, and I saw that the price had dropped, and it was around like $90 a coin at that time. And so the stock trader in me came into it thinking like, okay, this asset hit $263 back in April. I wonder if I can catch it on this dip, and then, like eventually it's going to go back up and revisit and overtake those previous highs. And then at the same time, again, that was like my assessment as a stock trader or whatever, like bringing in that skill set. But then the part of me that was interested in, like, it wasn't even that I'd articulated this to myself so much at the time, but the part of me that was just like fed up with the current economic system was so excited that Bitcoin existed, and was just like so fascinated by the potential in this technology. And I was just telling my friend the other day, I remember At that time, I was living in Bushwick in Brooklyn. I remember going into this coffee shop there called Little Skips, maybe Lil Skips, if anybody knows it, if it's still there. And just like, it was really close to where I was living. And sitting there and just like looking at the Bitcoin price and being so excited. And like, I could go on Reddit and there were subreddits where people were talking about crypto. But there wasn't anyone in my life that I could talk to who already had some kind of understanding or awareness of it at that time. But it just seemed like so fun. And I missed like as shitty as the environment was when I was a professional stock trader, as toxic and like viciously misogynistic it could be and generally discriminatory. The part of it that was fun was that I could talk to my friends who were also traders about different trades that I was making, and we could kind of commiserate if we lost money and run ideas by each other and like call out different opportunities that we were noticing. And so I didn't have anyone to do that with. And but I was really excited. So I started buying Bitcoin at about $90 a coin after the additional drop that had happened when the government seized the Bitcoin that Silk Road held, which was at that time, as I recall, worth like $30 million. Another side note, Tim Draper, this venture capitalist, ended up buying that Bitcoin from the government. And his son, Adam, and his dad, Bill, are both investors in seeds. Adam invested in seeds through Boost VC, which is what was then a Bitcoin-focused startup accelerator. I couldn't get Tim to invest in seeds, but he's like when I think about Tim, I think about like George W. Bush or something, except way less affable. He kind of had this quality of just like the rich kid that wasn't super smart, but like had this other kind of type of intelligence. And he was good about, at that time he was very vocal about this idea that like Bitcoin's going to get up to $10,000 a coin, which sounded crazy then. And I can't remember anybody else who was like announcing that publicly. So that made him look really smart in hindsight, right? And Tim also apparently is credited with this thing that happened with Hotmail, if anyone knows Hotmail, that like early email service that some people still use today. I think, didn't Microsoft acquire them, I think? But anyway, Tim had invested in Hotmail in like the mid to late 90s. And Hotmail did this thing where like in the footer of their emails, it said automatically in everyone's email, it said like, P.S. I love you. Click here to sign up for a Hotmail account yourself. And so that decision, which again is credited to Tim Draper, ended up making Hotmail go, I guess, super viral at that time, because even though people didn't understand what the internet was, they understood that like their friend or their family member was sending them a written message that they could read and that they could then type and send a written message, aka an email, through this service. And that, like they just had to click to create an account. So like I think about that. The reason I'm bringing it up is because I think it's kind of interesting. And it did a lot to drive, I guess, like general internet adoption at that time. And I think there's something that's like, it's not a super close parallel, but I think there's something kind of analogous that can happen with seeds now. And that what I run into a lot is people thinking that they don't understand enough about crypto, or they're confused by crypto, or they, especially femme people, especially women, they feel as though they need to learn more before they can engage with crypto. But if you're being presented with seeds and you understand that like, oh, I can just make a gift to help someone in need, just like I would do on any other website where I'm using a card, and then receive cryptocurrency in thanks, which is what we do. And then we'll help you set up a wallet if you need that, and so forth. That can seem a lot less daunting, and it can be a lot easier to onboard people into the world of cryptocurrency in that way. So my hope is that, it doesn't have the virality potential that like this link in the Hotmail footer did in the late 90s, but something like that, there's a way that we can adapt it or maybe slightly adjust it so that I think it could be a similar thing, especially for like the types of community members we want to attract, which are like giving people with healthy feminine energy and stuff, regardless of gender. Anyway, so Tim Draper bought the $30 million worth of Bitcoin from the government, and then that went up a lot, and he got a lot richer because he'd done that. So there I am living in Brooklyn, and I started buying Bitcoin with whatever money I had available when it was at $90 a coin. But Litecoin also existed at that time, and I think there was maybe something else called Digibyte that I don't even remember hearing much of anything about then. But it was like Bitcoin and Litecoin were all that was around effectively. And at that time, like, people talked about Litecoin like it was the silver to Bitcoin's gold or something. And so looking at the graphs, I saw that when Bitcoin had hit 263, which again were all-time highs at that point in April 2013, Litecoin had also hit all-time highs, which were around $6 a coin. So when I started buying in September-ish, late September, I think it was late September, early October, I just did a little bit of math, and I realized, like, okay, if Litecoin also goes back up and tests its previous all-time highs, if I put $1,000 into Litecoin, that's going to be a more profitable trade than it would be if I put $1,000 into Bitcoin and it went up and tested its previous all-time highs. So I think there's a really important lesson in this, which is that often the cheaper cryptocurrencies are going to be the higher, the more profitable trades for you. They're going to have the higher percentage returns. So that holds today. If you can find, like a good quality, cheap cryptocurrency, it's probably going to outperform the sort of more established cryptocurrencies at this moment in time. And it was also true back then. So anyway, yeah, so I started buying Litecoin as well. I remember it was like $1.76 a coin. And I put as much as I could afford into that. And that idea ended up being right in that. So I remember it was December 8th of 2013, Litecoin went up to like $42 a coin. So and it ended up being this ridiculously good trade. And it way outperformed what Bitcoin did. I think Bitcoin had gone up like 11x by the following January, which was still amazing. But Litecoin just like blew it out of the water. But the thing was, I was using this platform called eobot.com to buy the Litecoin because there were like no platforms. There were like, Coinbase did exist at that time. They weren't supporting Litecoin yet. Mt. Gox existed, but it was shady and I didn't use it. eobot's thing was that they would let you buy cryptocurrency with PayPal, but you didn't actually have the cryptocurrency in your own wallet. And this is another really important lesson for anyone who's newer to cryptocurrency. Like, I think you always, for the reasons I'm about to share, this experience I had with this platform, but just to say generally, it's always good to get your cryptocurrency off of centralized exchanges where you don't have the private keys controlling the wallet holding your cryptocurrency. Because if you don't have those private keys, they can fuck with your money, and sometimes very bad things can happen. In this case, I didn't care so much. I wanted to be able to buy Litecoin, and there were just very limited options. So I realized that they were being shady, and then like after December 8th, when it hit that $42 high, they reversed the PayPal purchase, and they were like, oh, PayPal is forcing us to reverse this. And I was like, no, like, give me the Litecoin that just went up a fuck ton. And they were really shitty, and I felt smart because nobody else on Reddit had caught this, even though there were other people on Reddit who had used this platform too. So, and I went back to PayPal and asked what was up, and they were like, no, we didn't reverse this transaction. Like, the merchant, EOBot, reversed the transaction. So it took years, largely because I was so broke, but I eventually found a lawyer who would work for no money, who was trying to help people out. And I was able to pursue this legally and get them to give me the Litecoin that they essentially stole from me back in the day. And yeah, they sent it to me ultimately when they were like threatened with like a lawsuit. But it was like 5 years later or something before that happened. So avoid any platform that seems shady. First of all, like, use your intuition. But yeah, the way to avoid that type of situation is also just to make sure your crypto is always in a wallet, to the extent that that's possible, for which you control the keys, like I said. If you don't control those keys, then all manner of bad things can happen. And like Mt. Gox, the other exchange that I mentioned that was around at that time, is another prime example. Mt. Gox literally stood for like Magic the Game, something, was like somebody who was really into Magic the Game who then also became interested in cryptocurrency. It was like this American guy who was living in Japan later on, I think, when he was arrested. Yeah, but he created the exchange. It was a centralized exchange. So people buying Bitcoin on the platform didn't actually control the keys for the wallets that were allegedly holding their Bitcoin purchases. And yeah, the Bitcoin just wasn't there. So he ultimately got arrested and went to jail. And a lot of people lost cryptocurrency they had paid for because they had left it in the control of this centralized exchange that wasn't like being ethical and whatever. So yeah, just don't do that. I mean, the centralized platforms that are around today, like Coinbase or Gemini or Binance, I mean, they're all shitty. They're better for regulatory reasons. Like, they have to be better than something like Mt. Gox had to be in like 2013 when stuff was still newer. But they're all, like, I've had bad experience with all of those platforms. So the way I think about it is, like, if you need to purchase cryptocurrency with fiat currency like the US dollar, which a lot of us need to do because we're not mining, and mining is its own problematic thing in some senses because of like environmental concerns. So we're probably, if we want crypto, we're probably going to be buying it with US dollars. Or if you want to get crypto through seeds, I mean, you can give to help somebody in need, and we'll send you seeds and thanks, and you can trade those seeds for other cryptocurrencies if you feel like doing that. But yeah, sometimes you're probably going to have to use those exchanges. So my strong suggestion is just to move your money off of those exchanges as soon as you can into a wallet that you control and hold your cryptocurrency there. I mean, like, Coinbase is like, they restricted buys on my account. I can't buy through Coinbase anymore, and they never explained why when I asked. Gemini, I'm in the process of trying to sue them for 27.5 Ether that they should have sent me, that they didn't send me because of this like stupid mistake on their platform. And it's like such a pain. Like, I don't want to have to fucking like sue these like billion-dollar corporations, but they're just so shitty to people that they leave you with no option. So I mean, Binance is spammy. It's just gross. It's not good. I mean, the only centralized exchange that in my awareness, that I think isn't actually shady is Kraken, but they don't show graphical information when you're trading, which is weird. And that's really helpful as a trader. And then also they were requiring, at least the last I was using it for somebody like me that lives in the States, they were requiring that we wire money in, and you had to wait for the wire to clear before you could trade. And other centralized exchanges like Gemini or Coinbase let you ACH money in, so it's there instantly. I mean, they credit it to your account instantly and then wait for the bank to clear it. So that's important because sometimes, you know, you want to take advantage of a trade, so you need to be able to get money in right away and start trading it. If you're waiting on a wire, you can miss the opportunity. So yeah, it's just like, there are not very many options. So I was super excited about the advent of decentralized exchanges, which were pioneered by Uniswap. I mean, there were a few others prior to that, like Ether, Delta, that didn't work as well. They hadn't figured out the liquidity problem, but this is like a whole other thing. But anyway, yeah, moral of that story is like, get your shit off of centralized exchanges as soon as you can into a wallet that you control. But yeah, that was the Bitcoin trade and the Litecoin trade, and those were super profitable, and it was awesome. And I was relieved as well because, like, I couldn't, at that time, seeds wasn't profitable, and it was such a fucking difficult thing to raise money from investors. And a lot of it had to do, as I think I've said on here before, with misogyny in venture capital. So I used what I made in those crypto trades to pay like the seeds team at that time and keep seeds going. And I was proud of myself too, because I ended up trading, like, that Bitcoin trade was like one of the best trades I've ever made. And that I was able to, I got out in January of 2014, just before it dropped, and it dropped for, you know, like 3 more years before the next bull run in 2017. So, yeah, those were good trades. The Litecoin trade was a good trade, even though I had to fight to get what I should have had if it were like an ethical exchange and stuff. Yeah, so those were my first kind of introductions. And then in the next several years, like in 2014, Seeds went through Boost VC, which was a Bitcoin-focused startup accelerator, like I said, that Adam Draper, Tim's son, had founded. And like, I knew Seeds, I think I said this on this podcast before, but like I saw opportunities to use Bitcoin to send money to places in the developing world where Seeds was trying to help people out. But I didn't see, like, Ethereum didn't exist yet. the ideas surrounding Ethereum were like becoming more formalized in 2014, but the platform didn't go live until 2015. So it was like we had to wait for the technology to be there to facilitate more of what Seeds ultimately came to be. So 2017 comes around, right? Finally, we've been waiting for several years now, a few years, 3 years, for crypto to come back up. Ether's gone through these growing pains, and that there was a hard fork because of issues that they needed to fix in the initial code, the initial blockchain code. The hard fork created Ethereum Classic, which I don't suggest buying. If you're looking at that, I think you want Ethereum for sure. So like Ethereum had to iron out issues that were happening for them earlier on, but then by the time we were coming into the early months of 2017, it seemed to me like there were signs of another bull run happening. Because Ethereum was working well, its original intention was like it was possible to fulfill that, so people could build projects on top of the Ethereum ecosystem. You could mint tokens pretty easily, and that, because I was working, it fueled all of these other projects that had a lot to do with what made cryptocurrency as a sector run in 2017. So I was buying Ether in early 2017. I wish I could remember the specific price, but you could look it up. I want to say like $13 a coin or something like that. And when I look back on it now, I think this is kind of convenient for me to say, but I think it's true. I think I sensed, I think I hadn't gotten into it sooner because I sensed that something was up, that then manifested itself in terms of the need for this hard fork to address like issues in their code and whatever. And I want to bring this up because a lot of like people will try to sell you on the idea that trading is super quant and super like rational and whatever, but that's bullshit. Like that component is super important, but it's like anything else. You need both the rational and the intuitive, like masculine and feminine energies, yin and yang, working together in harmony to get as close to the ideal as possible. And so your intuition as it pertains to trading is so important. It's so important. So like if you have a sense about something and you can't necessarily articulate in words why you have that sense, it's still very important to listen to it. And I think that's what was at play there for me with Ether. I think I knew that I didn't want to necessarily get involved until that sense had gone away. And by early 2017, it felt like something I was excited about getting involved in. So I did get involved. So 2017, it was a similar thing where it was just like another bull run, like I'd said. A lot of projects were built on top of the Ethereum ecosystem that raised fuck tons of money in ICOs. Seeds cryptocurrency was introduced in October of that year. And, we never had a lot of money. I remember I think I said this on here maybe before. I remember talking to this arrogant founder of another cryptocurrency that's now basically defunct. And the founder was just like, you need $1 million to market your cryptocurrency or whatever. And it was just like, well, we don't fucking have anything anywhere near close to that. So we couldn't do what these other crypto projects were doing that were just good at marketing. But whatever, I was more interested in understanding how it should work and Seeds being quote unquote like real and not just like a hype thing. And we would get good word of mouth as a result of that. But then also like Seeds is much smaller and not well known in a way that these other crazy, like these cryptos with huge marketing budgets have been since, which is another thing that I'm kind of struggling with now because I get annoyed when I see some of these crypto projects just dumping a ton into marketing and they're like shitty projects. It makes me mad and just, I guess, sad really because it feels like it's just more shitty, bad capitalistic energy. And the potential for something that's so much greater than that is here. And I think, we have a practical way to apply that through Seeds that can actually get us out of a lot of what's shitty about capitalism. But instead, these stupid projects are getting like all of this hype because like fucking people like Elon Musk or whatever tweet about them a couple times or whatever. Doge is different. I should talk about Dogecoin a little bit now as well. So I knew the founder of Doge, one of the co-founders of Doge, a little bit. We hung out a couple times because he was a mentor his name's Jackson Palmer. He was a mentor at Boost VC, which Seeds went through. So it was interesting. So like, as probably a lot of people listening to this know, Doge is like a meme coin based on, it was like the Doge meme from 2013 or whatever. So it was made as a joke, like literally as a joke. And he didn't care. And he's a socialist from Australia. So he was coming from, I mean, there's like a brand of socialism that exists in that country that just does not, especially then, does not exist in the United States. And yeah, he just made it like for fun in like a few hours with his co-founder. And that was it. It was like a fucking joke. And then like, whatever. And he was like, he was fun and smart, but also just like really socially minded. Like the other thing can be heartbreaking about the cryptocurrency sector is that it's so devoid of any form of like, it's like the old capitalistic structure has seized on cryptocurrency and applied that energy, even though it's a different thing, with the exception of projects like Seeds, genuinely. And it's just like, I think that turns off a lot of people who would be really excited if they like knew what Seeds was, if they understood that this technology was being applied in a way that was actually about creating abundance for everyone instead of just the same old extractive bullshit that exists in the old system. And I think Jackson was also really concerned about this. And you could like look up a New York Times interview he did cautioning people about crypto and talking about how it's a lot of just the shitty energy in that sector. Anyway, I'm just bringing this up because he was interesting and he was an Australian socialist and he had this girlfriend who, at the time at least, who was like this like anarchist feminist, as I recall. I'm not sure how she would have defined herself. I can't remember if I've talked about this in the podcast before, but it was just like that was the energy that they were coming from. And then it's just totally it's been transformed into something else because of like fucking like Elon Musk and Mark Cuban, these like white male billionaires who like apparently didn't know about crypto before 2020. So it's interesting. And so something like Doge is different because it wasn't like they didn't have they didn't care. It was a fucking joke. They didn't have like a marketing budget where they were trying to push out their shit and whatever. It was just like Doge was really early. It was created in 2014, I believe. And but then it's been like kind of seized by these other forces that have made it appear to be something else, which is weird. And then now there's like this whole meme coin bullshit dog meme thing with like SHIB, S-H-I-B is like the symbol. And that's just like an Ethereum-based cryptocurrency, like so many other cryptocurrencies are. And they're just trying to market the fuck out of it. And they got Elon Musk to tweet about it. And it's just like total fucking nonsense. And I mean, you can play those hype plays and make money off of them. A big part of the key there is knowing when to get out. But it's also just total fucking, it's fluff, right? So like, I find myself getting annoyed. Like, it just feels to me like Seeds has to wait a couple more years because there just isn't enough of this healthy feminine energy on Earth yet. So we have to deal with idiots like Elon Musk getting all of this attention. And when I say that I think he's an idiot, like, I don't think that dude is that smart. Like, I think it's just a lot of, it's marketing. It's a certain type of messaging that's reaching, like, I remember I made this TikTok once where I was like, do you think the Venn diagram of people that like Elon Musk and Joe Rogan is just a circle? And I think that it is. And I remember seeing on Reddit once somebody describe Joe Rogan as the dumb guy's smart guy. It's like that. It's like Elon Musk is like the dumb guy's billionaire genius. Because he isn't, I mean, he's a billionaire, but he isn't actually, like, electric cars. Yet, of course, we're going to have electric cars. Yes, like, cool. Going to Mars in a fucking 3D physical rocket ship. Yes, we were going to try to do that. Like, it's just like, I'm just not, he's doing everything wrong, I think. He's, like, very of the old order, which is why I think he's so visible at this time now, because that order is falling. And it's interesting, but I just get mad about it a lot. And I'm hoping that I stop being so annoyed about it soon. I think I have to let go of my frustration about it as a part of helping seeds grow into what seeds is ultimately, I think, going to be. Anyway, that was kind of a tangent into the contemporary that I didn't intend to make so soon. But yeah, so the Ether trade I mentioned, I was buying in early 2017. It was a similar thing, though. By the end of 2017, I had to sell it. It was a good trade. I had to sell it to cover bills. At the end of 2017 is when I was like the brokest I've ever been in my life. Like the floor just dropped out, and I forget what was happening astrologically then, but I think Saturn may have entered Capricorn, which is my 10th house. Yeah, so it was just like so broke. I was 33 years old. I had to like move back in to my parents' house, and I don't have a good relationship with them, but like they didn't turn me away, which I appreciated, and they let me eat food, and like they didn't make me pay rent. I don't know what I would have done otherwise. And yeah, so I had to sell that Ether to like pay Seeds teammates. Yeah, but Seeds, the cryptocurrency, came out of that, and it gave me time. I mean, that there was the next crash after that bull run happened in early-ish 2018. And then, things were quieter for several years just a couple actually, really heading into 2020 when things started moving again. And yeah, so it was just this quieter time that gave me the space to kind of work with Seeds and kind of figure out what Seeds was. And there were iterations that we made to Seeds during that period of time. Like, I didn't initially realize that we should be giving Seeds cryptocurrency to people in thanks for their gifts. But once we made that shift, it really made a difference, and the entire ecosystem made more sense. And that was something that came through that sort of slower period of time. Yeah, one other trade I wanted to mention that also happened in late 2017 when I was at my parents' house, so super broke, was that BCH existed. So there was a Bitcoin hard fork. BCH is Bitcoin Cash. And Coinbase was supporting BCH. It like launched on their platform. And I shit you not, like this is another reason that Vipassana meditation is so helpful. Is that I was literally sitting at my parents' house and I was doing Vipassana, and this idea came in my head to look at these old wallets from years before that held Bitcoin, to see what was up with BCH. And so I did that, and I saw that I had a pretty substantial amount of Bitcoin Cash. And so I ended up trading it as it launched on Coinbase when it went up to like $8,000, I want to say, something like that. It hasn't been anywhere near that since. And it was a great trade. I was able to get out of it as it spiked. I didn't believe in Bitcoin Cash as like a project. It was just purely like a trade, and made that money. And it was when I super needed money, and it really helped. So there was that. Yeah. And I should also say that, I'm losing my train of thought though. I mean, the moral of these stories, I guess, if I'm trying to distill it down, has a lot to do with like listening to instinct again. That can become sharper and easier to hear through something like Vipassana meditation. But in my experience, Vipassana is like by far the best way to get more honed in on that. And then, yeah, looking at cheaper cryptocurrencies that are good quality projects and getting into them sooner rather than later is going to help you out. Yeah, and then just, I mean, as I was starting to say, if there are hype plays that are clearly just about marketing, you can make money in those, but that's not a trade that I typically want to make, because it's really hard to do what's called quote unquote picking tops, which is a phrase I heard when I was a professional stock trader or whatever. Like, it's not something you want to get in the habit of doing because it's so difficult to do, and there's so little like graphical information supporting where a top is going to be. That means, like, when I say picking tops, I mean knowing when to sell like a hype play or any asset, but especially if it's like a hype play that isn't actually kind of grounded in any true value, something like SHIB. It's just like, it's real fucking hard to trade. And some people can do it, but it's just, I think you're better served if you're finding good quality projects and getting into them. And you can trade them to some extent as well, and do some swing trading where you're looking at different price levels. But it's just a different game. So yeah, it's interesting though too, because like I'm seeing what's reminiscent of what I saw happening in 2017, where it's like you saw new projects come on the scene in 2017 because it was just people trying to take advantage of all of the attention that cryptocurrency was getting. And that's happening now as well. And SHIB is a good example. And like SafeMoon was another example. Like the very existence of Binance Smart Chain, which is a total Ethereum ripoff, but more centralized, is another example. And all of those things that are kind of shitty and don't really have, that don't truly add value, when it gets to a point where there's too much of that, that can kind of precipitate the end of the bull run. It doesn't feel to me like there's going to be like a crash like there was in 2014 and 2017. There's just a lot more awareness and a lot more support and an understanding of how these cycles work. But when there's a lot of shitty stuff, it makes it likelier that like the scales are going to tip in the other direction. So I mean, I'm pretty choosy about the cryptocurrencies I want to trade, and not over trading is really important as well in terms of sustaining your profitability. So yeah, I mean, there are just a handful of cryptocurrencies that I'll trade, and I have an ADA position now. I'm trading Phantom a little bit. So those are both Ethereum competitors, but I'm much more convinced that Ethereum is going to be the quote unquote winner. And I think it's interesting that there are all of these competitors that have come on the scene trying to do effectively exactly the same thing that Ethereum is doing. And it's just the money incentive that's, bringing that about. There are just a handful of cryptos, and I think that's tends to be a better way to go because there's so much junk out there. You can get pulled into stuff. And I mean, there's stuff that people traded in 2017, that isn't around anymore. And it's going to be the same thing after this cycle as we head into whatever's going to happen in the future in the coming years. So yeah, it's like an overview of some early crypto trades I made. I should again reiterate what Seeds is, and that you can redeem a single seed to ask for help when you need it and receive that as a gift from our community. And I have a crypto course coming up. It's like weird. It's like I feel like capitalism-y stuff is projected onto me when I'm talking about this, but it fucking helps people, and it helps us help people. So whatever. So we have this crypto course. You're welcome to take it if you're interested. You can visit our site and click on crypto course at the top of the site. Add your name to the wait list, and we'll let you know when the doors to the course open. It's going to be starting in November of this year. And it's effectively free because we give you Seeds cryptocurrency when you sign up. So then you have cryptocurrency that you can mess around with, and then that supports our work so that 100% of gifts that come through our system go to people in need. So that's coming up if you're interested and you want to trade together. You can look at the FAQ on our site as well to get common questions answered relating to the course. So that's there. Trading is fun. It's really fun. Crypto, I feel like, is the thing to be involved in our time to a great extent. So it's like, it's exciting to see. It's been fun and exciting to see everything that's happened so far, even the stuff that makes me furious. And I think it's going to be even more fun to see what's happening moving forward. So if you're interested and you like social good and you want to support a social good project and learn how to trade crypto, our course can be an option for you. Yeah, that's all I'll say today. I'm Rachel. This is Spiritual Crypto. I appreciate you listening, and I'll catch you next time. Bye.